The Ghana Water Company is telling us what it has been telling us over the last decade or more. We had been cautioned as a country that we risk having to import water to drink. It appears that the decade timeline that was put to that risk has come really fast. It has come that fast as a result of the activities of Galamsey, illegal mining, small-scale mining. This existential threat is at its peak at the time the government has been at the height of a so-called fight, which we now know is a failed fight. A president put his presidency on the line. Is he a man of his word? If he is, I'm sure he has not forgotten what he told this country. Galamsey is right by you at your doorstep. The banana you peel, the orange you take, the water that is running through your tap, the Ghana Water Company, in some circumstances, used to treat the water with what it calls alum. Now it says it has to use a harder chemical that costs 4 times the price of alum to treat the water. What are the effects of these chemicals being used to treat the water? The percentage of the water that is treatable now, very terrible. So Galamsey is happening in every home. Leadership has failed, but have the citizens also failed in not holding leadership to account, at least to their words, that their presidency is hinged on this? I'm Samson, Lardy, Anyenini. We'll be right back to take you through another round of the Galamsey discussion. Deformed babies. So when can the power of the state stop a few individuals killing all of us and destroying our future? Is that how weak the so-called awesome powers of the state are? We'll be right back. You're welcome back. And here's Samson's take. Really bizarre. Ghanaian students on scholarship abroad selling their sperms to survive. I'm not the one saying it. The students are the ones saying it. A couple of weeks ago, the vice president decided to meet the media. I shelved all the questions I had planned to ask him because some of these students had spoken to me and I discovered that their plight was very bad. That students who are on scholarship abroad, that Ghana has decided that it can afford to help them get an education to come and assist the country's development. Some have gone over 37 months without receiving their stipends. How does the government expect them to survive? Some have not been paid their tuition fees for a long period. And because of that, they have been locked out of the student portals, so they can't participate in the studies for which the country sent them abroad. Some have lost their studentship in 3 universities in the UK alone. Some have actually lost their studentship and are facing deportation. So I asked the Vice President on that day, what will he do about that? As we understand, he said he was aware of that situation already because some parents had contacted him about it. So he was talking to the finance minister. Now we understand that 50 million Ghana cedis has been released to address their challenges. But the students have written an open letter to the president that this 50 million Ghana cedis will not cater for even a quarter of the students because of the backlog of the tuition fees that have been due for a long time, the arrears. There are stipends that have been due for a long time. And I said 37 months. In fact, it was 26 months of unpaid stipends, having sent them there for approximately 37 months. They have been there for, some have been there for 37 months. Out of those 37 months, 26 months of their stipends have not been paid. Now, guess what they are saying? And one of them wrote, he said, some of them are being withdrawn from their universities and facing the looming threat of deportation. Additionally, some students have been locked out of their student portals, making it impossible for them to engage in any academic activities. Others have been evicted from their residences due to unpaid rent, and others are facing court litigations as their landlords have sued them in court. Others have had to resort to sleeping in their university libraries because of their inability to pay for their accommodation. The majority have received communication from the schools warning of potential withdrawals from their respective programs, and I've seen some of those letters. The dire situation has forced some students into desperate measures for survival. There are male students who have resorted to selling their sperm, while other female students have been forced into relationships, all in a bid to survive as we strive to complete our studies. The 50 million that has been released, they say they don't even know how that is going to be disbursed. Because something goes on. This country, we can't get anything right. They will look for certain people belonging to a certain party and government and take care of a few and leave the majority. That, they say, will not work. So please, pay attention to this student. This is the open letter from Pius Apre, University of Kent. It's on myjoyonline.com. I'm Samson Lardy Anyenini, and this is my take. We'll be right back.
Galamsey is worsening in many communities across the country, with miners operating glaringly in violation of environmental laws. A clear case is this illegal mining activity happening in the middle of the Konongo township, a few meters from the main Kumasi-Accra road. In a clear violation of the Environmental Protection Act 1994, the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, and the Water Resources Commission Act 1996, the miners have redirected the Owerri stream, which flows through the town, and destroyed large parts of the wetlands, contaminating sources of water for the community. This is Konongo, close to the main Kumasi-Accra road. Now, this valley used to be a farming ground for many indigents here
in the town and its surrounding communities. Now, what is happening here, for miles you can see it, is a violation of our laws. In fact, the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703, indicates that no person shall engage in mining activities in a water body or wetland without prior written approval from the ministry. No person shall undertake any activity that may affect the quality or quantity of water in a water body without prior written approval from the Minerals Commission. I doubt if what is happening in this valley, which is a violation of the law, has a written permission or consent from the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources.
Some of the miners we found at the site justified their illegal mining activity.
Interview. Police into machine. But still, it's not which anywhere. I could for this is aware. I know. I ask the government that I could do and about me spoil the country what they expect us to do. Shall we go and steal or what? Huh? The Bauman, this is his Sakufado. They're supposed to manage the country well for the youth to enjoy. Don't say we. Eh, pop up ya. The better lady. Am I a man? Much when somebody should make Muka watch him, Boga watch him to our watching. I might to Koya say Hutana. I'm Tamko Muana. Then you have everything. Yeah, wait. I'm going to ask him.
We continued our fact-finding mission to Asaman Tamfwe on the main Kumasi-Accra road. Few inches from the main road, excavators are digging and scooping earth into an artisanal washing bay. The owner, Kwesi Asamoah, told us the mining activity is part of a community mining scheme commissioned by the Lands Minister himself. But Lands Minister Abdullahi Jinapo denied knowledge of it when we contacted him.
Minerals Commission and EP Minister for Lands. I'm on the requisite to give license.
After a few minutes' drive, we reached the eastern regional town of Usino, where an artisanal mining base set up inches from the Kumasi-Accra road is actively processing gold. Though this mining activity violates Section 15 of the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703, which prohibits mining 50 meters from a public road, these miners are carrying out their activity with no fear at all. One of them approached us in an angry mood, inquiring our mission to the place. Perhaps there is a law enforcement holiday for nature crimes. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi. The Tano Anua Forest Reserve in the Awin municipality covers part of the watershed of the Tano River. It was gazetted as a forest reserve in 1955. Experts say it meets one or more previously established criteria for identified sites of biodiversity importance. In December 2023, we reported an invasion of compartments 74 and 75 of the reserve by Chinese miners led by an NPP executive in the Awin municipality. A few days ago, another batch of Chinese miners and some influential Ghanaian collaborators have entered and destroyed compartments 17 and 20 of the protected reserve.
In the beginning of August, we saw some Chinese people working outside the forest reserve. They crossed the Tano River into the forest to do illegal mining. The forestry people, after 2 weeks, the forestry people came to drive them away. But they left their machines on the road. Until we came here, we realized they have moved all their excavators away, leaving the washing plants and their generators inside the reserve.
Once again, the degradation and destruction of another pristine protected forest has begun right here. This is the Tananya Forest Reserve, and as you can see, some illegal miners have entered and started its destruction for gold. Now what you are seeing in here is happening in compartment 17 where I'm sitting, and 20 which is ahead of us. So we're going to take a tour and gauge the level of destruction.
We were told by our sources at the Minerals Commission that Clean Jobs Ghana Limited legally owns a mining right to portions of the forest, but they are yet to start mining. In April this year, Clean Jobs wrote to the Forestry Commission requesting security access to the forest to fight and protect its mining lease against illegal miners who were invading the forest. But that has just been granted. According to Clean Jobs Limited, it has since acquiring the permit liaised with the police in making series of arrests.
So this is the second area that has been invaded by the illegal miners, and per the map I have with me here for Tananya, according to the Forestry Commission, this is compartment 20, and it's a protected area. It's not even allowed for logging purposes.
It is not clear why the Forestry Commission allowed the invasion to thrive for days before stopping it. No explanation has also been given as to why no arrests were made and the illegal miners were allowed to track their equipment out of the forest. A large part of the forest, spanning over 10 football fields, has been decimated by the miners.
Within a few days, this is what illegal miners have done to this protected compartment of the Tananya Forest Reserve. How do we prevent this from happening in the first place? And it brings to question the supervisory role of the Minerals Commission, the Forestry Commission, and other agencies of government.
Our checks indicate porous entry points for the invasion of the forest.
So this is how they cross the Tano River with their excavators into the forest reserve to mine it. So the excavators, you could see the tracks, they go inside the riverbed, they cross from that side, and they use the excavators to travel all the way through the river up here, and then boom, they enter.
Some of their generators and pumping machines have been left behind, an indication of the possibility of a comeback.
This forest has been standing for years, even when the ones who pillage it now were not born. The evidence of that is this tree. It has been standing for decades. It would take more than 35 years for another one to be grown, nurtured, and matured like this. Until we start mining responsibly, we are in for the long haul for our natural resources. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Tananya Forest Reserve, Western Region.
Right. And this morning we are continuing to mobilize to halt the existential threat. Not just putting together a bunch of words. When we say existential threat, it means a risk or danger that poses a fundamental threat to the existence, survival, or well-being of all of us. Yes, that's where we are with Galamsey. You have seen Erastus interact with ecologists. He's interacted with medical experts who have investigated and reported the babies that are being born with deformities, very bizarre stuff that are being seen, all traced to Galamsey. My guests in the studio and also joining us via Zoom. Erastus joins us. He's an environmental and investigative journalist. He's the GJ's Journalist of the Year. And he joins us via Zoom. Seth Bokwe is Associate Editor of the Fourth Estate publication. They have also done a fresh angle to the discussion where a new law was passed in this regime, and just days after the passage, you saw a number of people line up to acquire licenses to mine in the forest reserve. The forest reserve ought to be a no-go area, but the government decided that there should be some exemption so people can mine portions of the forest reserve. And these are significant biodiversity areas designated by the world. It is not only helping Ghana, but helping the whole world in keeping our climate and our ecology together. But we passed an LI. Right after that LI was passed, the Fourth Estate story will show you the number of persons who are politically exposed in government, at the presidency, at the helm of the management of our metropolises, their companies scrambling to invade the forest reserves to manage, to mine for gold. We'll also be joined by the Minister Samuel Abujinapo, who is MP Damongo and Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Martin Kwekwe is Chief Executive Officer, Minerals Commission. They have a couple of questions to answer. The minister will also answer some questions. He's being asked to step down, that he should have lost his job long ago and is still there. We'll ask him whether he thinks his job is still tenable. In fact, the call has now been on the president. He said he put his presidency on the line in this fight from 2017. So if he's a man of his word, that's what many are asking. If he's a man of his word, he should put his presidency down because he's failed. Then Kofi Kranting is right here in the studio. It's 2024 presidential hopeful, New Vision Movement. Felix Kwachi Ofosu, special aide, former President Mahama, and NDC parliamentary candidate Abura Asebu Kwaman Kese. We have questions for the politicians to answer. Professor Dr. Ernest York, Vice President, Ghana Medical Association. He's right here in the studio. Thanks very much for joining us. Gentlemen, right, and GMA, together with, I was counting about almost a dozen groups, have come together to issue a statement. And many have been asking, where is the Ghana Bar Association? It doesn't seem to have teeth to bite. It doesn't seem to take interest in important issues in the country anymore. It used to have a leadership role. It seems to have failed in that regard. The Ghana Medical Association taking the lead in that regard. And some are also asking, where's the TUC? Don't fight only sale of SNIT properties. Fight this one, because you need that to have properties. We'll also be joined by Professor Kwesi Enin, security consultant. It's become a transnational threat. Dr. Ishmael Kweku, minerals, environmental and safety expert and senior lecturer and coordinator, Sustainable Artisanal and Small-Scale Mining Hub, University of Mines and Technology, TAQUA. In the small-scale mining sector, the miners have named him, quote, unquote, the Galamsey doctor. That's to say that he is the one who helps to heal and address the challenges in that area. So as I said, let me begin right here. Erastus, thanks very much. And we have a map that we are going to show you in due course. Erastus has been to many places. And if you think he just went to 2 isolated places to report to you, we'll show you, I'll rise quickly to get to the screens and show you various parts of the country and how much hemorrhage, damage, irrecoverable is being done to our lands, to our water bodies, even at a time when the fight has been, quote unquote, at its height. Erasmus, thanks very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, Samson, I can hear you.
Right. And thanks for the many sacrifices, including sacrificing, risking your life in this kind of job. We have seen you before running in the forest and even soldiers trying to seize your camera, damaging your vehicle. And we don't know who they are for, whether they are for the country or not. Clearly, if they are for the country, they will not be chasing you because you don't go there to mine. You only go to expose. So let's begin here. We are told that clearly the situation is because of the impunity as a result of the lack of punishment for those who have infringed over the period, who have violated the laws over the period and have not been punished. Can you give us a list of some clear cases of individuals, companies who have violated these laws and you have exposed, you and others have exposed over the years in this fight? Just give us a sense of it.
I'll start with C&J Alaska, which started the destruction of the Upper Wasa Forest Reserve. And at that time, we reported that was in 2017, 2018, when we went there with the task force. They were leading Chinese miners. In some cases, when we asked, we saw that they had just prospecting licenses and they were still mining the forest. And when we flew the drones, we saw miles of devastation that has not been reclaimed until now. So a large portion of the Upper Wasa Forest Reserve are now pits and gullies destroyed by C&J Alaska. That company metamorphosed into Imperial Heritage Mining Limited. And they also invaded the Apamprama Forest Reserve in 2018 with a prospecting license. And when we went in there, they had over 35 excavators in the forest and they had destroyed it. When we did that report, nothing happened. Nobody was invited. And that's a gross violation of our mining regulations. And even the Minerals Commission was aware of what happened in that forest. Today, one thing led to another, more people joined, and 50%, according to the Forestry Commission of the Apamprama Forest Reserve, is now degraded, pits and gullies. Now, when we did that expose, we expected the state to act, but it didn't. Later on, when we were detained by the same people, when we were sent by the environment minister to stop them in the Apamprama Forest Reserve, the soldiers who were protecting them detained us for 5 hours in the bush and subjected us and my crew to a whole lot of, assault. Nothing happened afterwards. The military said they were investigating. Until now, that report never showed up. Let me also give you a second example. When we went to the Samre Boy area, close to the tunnel, in violation of our mining regulations, the Akonta Mining Limited, owned by Chema Untumi, was mining few inches to the Tunnel River. In fact, it was violating government's own buffer zone policy. And they had leaked their tailings. I mean, the mining residue was leaked directly into the Tunnel River.
What does the buffer zone policy say?
It says that you cannot mine 100 meters from a major river.
Thank you very much.
50 meters, depending on which water body we are dealing with.
Right, that's fine. Now let's move on. So what has become of that?
Nothing has become of that. In fact, we provided drone footages of Akonta Mining Limited and how their tailings were being leaked directly, washed into the Tunnel River.
Nothing happened.
And we
We also
remember,
reported.
we remember that the Forestry Commission had actually issued a statement indicting Akonta Mining, correct?
Yes. In fact, that was their invasion of the Tanonimri Forest Reserve.
Right.
And the minister himself came out that he did not have the authority to enter the forest. We reported that.
After a number of months, we heard the president now say that they do not longer mine in that place. Right. We know Ken Ashigbe, Martin Pebu came together and filed a complaint at the CID. I think subsequently they escalated it to the OSP. At the level of the CID, I think there's been zero reaction from there so far. At the OSP, they have given some updates on their platform, on their website, that they are doing something about it, but doesn't seem to be good enough so far. Yes, please go on.
Right, and Samson, they, pursuant to that, the National CID invited me, and I provided them with a copy of my documentary. They wanted me to give them evidence that is linking Akonta Mining to the destruction in the Tanonimri Forest Reserve. And I told them I have already given them my evidence. What is left is for them to go to the ground and do their own investigations. After all, if they have been given licenses, the Minerals Commission is still alive. They can cross-check. And that was the last I heard of them. So I have also brought to bear in the Ankwaso Forest Reserve, when the task force visited there in 2018, we found a former driver to one of the politicians in Ghana who was destroying the forest there. And in fact, he brought out 40,000 cedis to bribe the task force to buy cocoa, and he was arrested for it. Nothing. He named the person who was mining there at the time as John Bwedu. When we did the story, nothing came out of it. So in fact, after that, we have done a number of them. The recent one in Tanzania, which links one Chairman Addison of the NPP to that destruction. I called him. He did not confirm or deny. And after the report, a number of the illegal miners have entered that forest, as you saw in the latest video.
Is that the Enchi situation?
Yes, that's the Enchi situation.
That was in January.
That was in January.
Okay. And
then recently,
right,
just about 2 weeks ago, other miners have also invaded. This time around, we are on the ground. We are being told of names within the same party. We are still investigating to get the evidence that links them to it, to be able to mention their names. And again, no investigation from that, because clearly somebody owns excavators. If they enter a forest reserve, it shouldn't be difficult for the Forestry Commission to investigate to find out the people behind it. But no arrests were made. The excavators, they allow them to cut them. As we speak, there are surrounding villages of the Tanzania Reserve. The excavators are parked there as we speak, waiting for this whole thing to die down, and then they go back.
I am privy to a process that suggests that Shraj may have interviewed you on the back of a petition filed by two individuals, Suleimana Isifu, who is in Germany, and Dr. Jacob Safo, who took up your report and lodged a complaint with Shraj to investigate the matter under they are the directors of the research group, Center for Climate Change and Food Security. They lodged this complaint early in January 5, 2024. And they have been sort of pursuing Shraj on what it has done so far, because in that report, it became obvious that the Forestry Commission officers in Enchi were complicit in the illegal mining there. Has Shraj spoken to you?
Yes, I had a gentleman calling from Shraj to ask some questions, but since then, I've not heard from them again.
Okay. give us, if there's one or two more lists you want to just mention, and now let me ask you my next question.
Samson, I guess offhand, these are the ones that come to mind. There are others that we still investigating. I have to go into my archives, a number of reports I have done from various reserves across the country, including the latest one, which is the Draw River Forest Reserve. We're getting all manner of information on who has entered. It's not clear to the Forestry Commission.
So we know that in these matters you have spoken to, we can say without any fear of contradiction that absolutely nothing has been done. The things they do about calling you to, interview you is nothing. We cannot say if you did that in January up to now, we are getting to when? We're in September. We should credit you for having done any work. The area of the police, even the OSP, all of them, we can say, are failing in this direction. Tell us about your fresh discoveries of devastation, the ones that you have uncovered recently, and what the official response has been.
So we had the one that is showing on your screen right now is the Draw River Forest Reserve. Now we heard that somebody has entered that reserve. In fact, it's a protected area, it's a GSPA. And we went there to find out. In fact, we found out they had entered the forest with the excavators. After agitation from the youth, they brought the 3 excavators back onto the forest road. Their cabin, which they had, they wanted to set up and start mining. That is still within the forest area. A large clearing has been done within the forest ready for mining. Now, we, per our investigations, know that Better Land, Ghana Services, has a legal right to mine within, they have a concession, a mining right within the forest, but they are yet to start mining. In fact, they have sent me videos and pictures of how they are doing their exploration activities. And they are using simple tools. They are saying that they have not, for any reason, entered the forest with any heavy equipment to do exploration. Then the major question is, so who entered that part of the forest and has cleared the area and has been ready to mine? And then we went to the Tananya Reserve recently, and we saw the invasion. And as we speak, the excavators have been moved to villages surrounding the area. We have not gotten any official response from the Forestry Commission indicating why they refuse to arrest them, why they allow them to cart their excavators, which is the evidence of who has invaded the forest, out of the forest without impounding them. As we speak, their settlements are still there. Their machines, some of their equipment are still there. And that is what they do. They wait for it to calm down, and then they enter the forest again to destroy.
Thank you. Erastus, my very final question to you. I have a medical doctor here, but still, let me ask you, you have interacted with experts, geologists, medical, experts, and they've been telling you some rather chilling stories you have shared with the country over a period of time. Pick about 2 of the effects that you remember that they have spoken about that keeps you want to continue in this kind of journalism regardless of the dangers that you face.
Samson, what strikes me most is when Professor Osei Sampini shared his findings with me. In fact, he has 4 of the bodies of the babies in jars for observation. And some of the babies have legs growing from their chest. Some of them have 6 fingers, 6 toes. The one that I showed in my documentary has a malformed head. It doesn't have any genitals at all, so you don't know whether it's a baby boy or girl. And they found high levels of cyanide, arsenic, and mercury in the placenta, which of course the doctor in your studio will know that it transports food to the baby. Whatever you find in there is in the baby. Now there's a lot of research that I have read internationally and locally, which links heavy metals to the deformation in babies. In fact, these babies are coming from the Bebiani Anyaso Bekwai, Galamsey Belt, Dunkwao area. And Samson, I have been to that ground. And the pollution of the water sources there alone will confirm that indeed the women who died with their babies got into contact or got exposed to these heavy metals through the food chain. Now, another thing that I have seen, which is also backed by research, is the inhalation of vaporized mercury, which is very, very poisonous. In fact, you see the gold smelting centers that have picked up all across the rural setting. They burn the amalgamated gold to produce the vaporized white vapor. And that vapor, per research, goes into the open air and it stays there for a long time. And so, like smoking, passive smoke or passive inhalation from these vaporized gases bioaccumulates in your system, and it gives you a lot of problems. And how many of these smelting centers do we have? A number of them in rural areas.
Okay.
And so we are dealing with a very dangerous hidden problem.
All right. Thank you very much, Erastus Asaredonko. He's a man who has been on the beats, risking his life. And we have had the opportunity of seeing one particular situation where he and his team were chased. Soldiers who were supposed to assist them were rather against them. Interesting. Now, let me quickly go to Seth Bokwe, who is with the Media Foundation for West Africa. It's a dedicated investigative journalism hub. That is the fourth estate. It is the hub that is doing data journalism. It's not doing rumor journalism, data journalism. Everything it says, it has a proof for it. Seth, your latest piece, which Facebook blocked, didn't allow you to post, and has taken social media by storm, about invasion in the forest, which traces politically exposed persons, including at the very heart of the presidency. And the mayor of Kumasi, their companies. What motivated that kind of research work? Please unmute your mic.
All right. Thank you, Samson, for having me. So during the latter part of last year, we read some reports that some mining companies have been granted concessions in forest reserves. Well, at the time, it sounded normal because there are a few companies that have been granted concessions in mining forest reserves in the past. For instance, the General Paper Forest Reserves, which Newmont mines, it generated a lot of controversy. So we thought, well, it's within the scope of the law. And then we heard that the list included Hakum National Park. Well, that's quite shocking because Hakum is one of the most visited tourist sites. If you are going to turn it into a mining site, it will be problematic. We didn't have a full grasp of the issue, so we visited Arusha, Ghana, to understand exactly what was going on. I went there with my colleague, Edmond Ajiman Boateng. So they told us that the basis, the trigger for this was a new law, Environmental Protection, Mining in Forest Reserves Regulation, passed in November 2022. And their fear was that this would cause further damage that we are already struggling to deal with from Galamsey. They told us that there are two types of forest reserves, production forest reserves and non-production forest reserves. And even for the production forest reserves, where some activity takes place, it's just, if you take those forest reserves, it's just 2% of those reserves that you can touch for farming, mining, timber harvesting, etc. You can't go beyond it. Then they also told us that for the non-production forest reserve, which includes globally significant biodiversity areas, you can't touch them because they are part of our international commitments. And if you heard our president,
because the protection,
Lands and Natural Resources Minister,
Seth, let me state this, because the protection those forests give is not
Yes.
only local protection, but it is needed for the entire survival of the world. That's why
Absolutely.
they are globally
That is spot
significant
on.
biodiversity areas. Okay, let's
Yes.
go on.
Yes, they are part of the commitment we made to the world that will contribute our forests to human survival. And our president, if you heard the president talking about we are contributing to biodiversity, we are protecting our forest reserve. You are using these forest reserves as a bargaining chip for the UN, our share of the UN's loss and damage fund. So it was rather interesting. But Arocha actually showed us proof at the time that at least 3 of those forest reserves have been given out concessions have been given in those forest reserves. The Draw River Forest Reserve, Boeing Tano, Area, and then Yon South. Now, we went looking into the law, exactly what does the law say. And we saw in Regulation 3 that there is a provision that allows the president to give a written consent for these forest reserves to be mined in the national interest. I mean, what can be national interest in destroying a forest reserve that we promise the world that we will not touch? So basically, this was the trigger.
Yes, and what did you find?
Sorry.
What did you find?
So what we did is to go back to the Minerals Commission website and look for all the mining companies that applied for concession from June 2022, because that was the time the law went to Parliament and got gazetted in July, and then eventually got passed in November 2022. So we listed all those companies out and then sent the list to the Office of Registrar of Companies to find the names behind these companies.
The beneficial owners.
Now, say that again.
The beneficial owners of those companies.
The beneficial owners, the shareholders, the directors, etc. It would take the ORC more than 4 months to respond. I mean, the number of times we track there, the amount of money we spent on transport is more than what we spent on getting the information. It will cost about 35 cedis per company search. Then we began to see, when we got the list, we began to see a trend that people, political office holders that ordinarily you would be surprised to find on such a list. For instance, Mr. Sampine. Mr. Sampine's company, Sam and Jan Limited, is on that list. The company applied for a concession in the Draw River, in the Odan River Forest Reserve in the Ashanti region, and was granted. We found he owns this company with a Kumasi-based lawyer, Ohini Amankwajan, who is also the lawyer for the Ghana the GIADEC, our company, what's the name? The Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation.
That's right.
Yes. Then we found Chairman Tumi's Company Limited. Actually, what's his name? Erastus a few minutes ago mentioned what Chairman Tumi's company Akunta was doing in the Tano Forest Reserve. At the time they applied for this concession, they were not given the rights. This was on August 25th, 2022. They were not given the right to mine, but the company went ahead to mine with impunity, as Erastus mentioned. Then we found another interesting trend. There is the Joabin constituency parliamentary candidates of the MPP. He owns 2 companies, FDA Mining Limited and DML. DML is a consultancy company. And so we actually, when you look at the Minerals Commission website, it states contact person. So we sought to find out from the Minerals Commission, Mr. Isi, I'm happy he's here. We asked him, what does a contact person mean? And he said that they are consultants. So they more or less serve like the middle person between the Minerals Commission and the company. We found that at least 15 companies were connected to him. And 4 of these companies have been granted the concessions in forest reserves. His own company, FJ, also has a concession. Now, something very interesting we found on this GML website. It says that we have established key relationships with upper management at the Ghana Minerals Commission. These relationships have been instrumental in securing and operating concessions in the country's forest reserves. I mean, that's quite interesting.
To say they are the go-to consultants if you want to mine in the forest.
They are the go-to people, and that they have relations with the upper management of the Minerals Commission, which facilitates the granting of concessions to them.
It can be mere boasting, but as you say, they have the results to show for it.
Exactly. Then we also found that a Chinese company, Unipower Mining Limited, also has a concession. Now, we asked a former Minerals Commission boss, Mr. Tony Oben, to explain to us if, for instance, a company registers as a mining service provider, can it receive a concession on its own to mine? And he said if the object of registration of the company, the purpose of registration of the company was for providing mining services, then no. But Unipower has quite a number of concessions apart from the one we saw in the forest reserve. Then we discovered some very interesting names: Solomon Goze, Ryan Goze, and Cynthia Perpetua Abuada. Between these 3 people, they have about 6 companies: Kingspep, Limespec Mining, Hapic, Rigo SF Globe Mining Limited, and the Nana Ansar Resources, which is now Lotus Impact. And all 4 of these companies have received concessions in the forest. Now, there was a very interesting story we saw.
Do that very quickly for me, because I needed you and Erastus to give us just a bit of this background about the commitment to fighting the Galamsey and ending it, so that my guests can now come in and help us. Of course, we have the Minerals Commission's boss also joining us. They will take a number of questions. Abu Jinapo will also take some questions. Yes, so quickly go to the end of your story for us.
So we also found that the DC for Wasa East and the MPP Women Organizer with 2 other people have applied for concession in the Subri River. Now, the most interesting thing about this one is that the company registered in July 3rd. By July 11th, their application, they put in an application. That application has been forwarded to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Now, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources told Parliament in February last year that exploration activity, recognizance, and prospecting applications will not be accepted. So we found it quite curious that the Minerals Commission will forward this application to the ministry. And then we also found that another company, Oleum Ghana Limited, with shareholders bearing names similar, emphasis on similar, to a presidential staffer who is also the aspiring MP for Granda South on the MPP ticket. And then a deputy ambassador to Turkey, Faisal Ahmed Meriga, again, emphasis on names similar to them, similar to theirs. So that's what we found, Samson.
What's the response been so far, quickly?
Well, the response has been
in these cases, and as you emphasize in your story, They are doing legitimate mining, except you find some issues of moral conflict with some of the individuals behind the companies, including Sampine, who was leading the crusade for greening, the community, and you can't marry that with, his company being in a forest and mining. What's been the response so far?
Say that again.
What's been the response in a minute?
Oh, the response has been fantastic. The public uproar that greeted this story should obviously send a signal to our leaders that we cannot allow this law to continue to hold. It's a terrible law. It's a bad law. It will further deplete our forest reserves and compromise our country's biodiversity. We must not allow it to stand. If we must do anything, we must repeal it immediately. I'm happy that the minority have indicated their position, that they will have it repealed. But I'm also curious about how the LI goes to Parliament, goes to the Committee on Mines and Energy, and nobody in that committee detected that there's everything wrong with it. I'm surprised. They allow it to pass.
Okay. We'll ask the experts, but your suggestion is that there should not be mining in these areas, but the experts will tell you that there can be mining, responsible mining. I think the fear over the period, as we have heard from Darobusu and the rest from Eroka Ghana, is that it is the breach that is the problem. So even in this small-scale mining situation, we know that licenses have been granted for small-scale mining, and then they turn into something else. Then Galamsey sprouts up. There's a reverend minister who says that the community mining is another name for something else. So yes, just conclude.
Something, I think no matter how we look at this, if you are telling me that you are going to mine responsibly in a GSBA, you've made an international commitment to protecting those forest reserves, and you are telling me that you are going to mine responsibly in it. But the picture clearly showing what is showing on our screens now shows that the moment you open those reserves, other characters also enter. If we are to believe the story Better Land is telling us, it means that other characters also enter those forest reserves, and they are causing the damage we are seeing on our screens. We should not allow it to stand.
Thank you very much, Seth Wokpe, an associate editor at the Fourth Estate with the Media Foundation for West Africa. He's a very good student. When he stressed similar names. So they found what we could only tell them to say, it's similar names. But when you dig deep, you find that it can only be similar names. Yes, similar names. We mean it. You see, the courts, sometimes we can say, don't determine truth. They use facts. And in these areas, they've mentioned Alaska and the rest, have been involved in some of these when they have sued. Okay? And people struggle. There was a chief who mentioned a regional minister and some people who were involved on the morning show. The next morning, there was a suit because the people know that it is difficult for you to link them directly, and a court will rule in their favor that because you can't link them directly, irrespective of what is on the face, you can't link them directly. They'll say, you are guilty, you have defamed them. But God is watching all of you. We'll be right back. You're welcome back, and I'm going to get to my guests now, but let's give you, a 360 picture of what is happening to Ghana's precious water bodies and flora and fauna. If you had Erastus and you thought that we just picked one or two places and so this will not happen anytime soon, as is being predicted that there will be importation of water, then now get ready. And I'm going to do just a 3D on 14 places, at least 13 sites across the country for you to see the devastation that is happening. I'm sure you have seen the woman who got up one morning, was visiting Nature's Call behind her house, and the whole place collapsed on her because Galamsey is happening in homes. Right. Now, so take a look at the Anyenini River. That's the Anyenini River there. I'm just giving you a 3D view of it. And as you look, you can spot the places that have been very badly polluted and damaged. For the sake of time, I'll try and zoom in just one or two places for you to see how really terrible the situation is. And this is right here in your country. And as you have heard, some of the mining is coming very close to major roads. You have seen a particular road that is caving in because the mining is going deep down under the road. And that's a major road, not like some unimportant road, a very major road. And these are your towns. That's what is happening to them, right? Okay, so that's where the Anyenini River is. Let me give you a view of the Ofi. Yes, look at it. See that for yourself. Look at the Ofi. Look at it. Yeah. All over. All over. All over. And for those of you who live around, you know how exactly it looks like. I don't need to be zooming for you. This is what mining is doing. This is what mining is doing to the entire place. And it is this terrible. I'm sure you can see what I'm showing you, right? Okay, so let's, from Ofi, let me take you to the Ankobra. Water that used to be really pure, that many people have spoken about how they drank from the Ankobra River. They used it to wash. You know, you can't use it to wash anymore. And look at the area. That's a 3D view. Look at the area. And Erastus and his friends have been to some of these places where there is a linkage to the sea and how terrible things are happening in these places. That's Ankobra. Let's move on to River Pra. Yeah. You can see how it looks. Yeah. You can see how it looks. And the real fear. Fish life is dying. And then trees are being destroyed. Chifu Praso District Hospital just around the place, and the things we're seeing. Really, really bad. Now let's check the Tano River. And that's coming in your shots. Yes, this is Tano. So just take a view how it looks like. I don't want to waste your time any further. Let me get to my guest so they help us to see what we can do. Because what we're doing is mobilizing to halt the existential threat. Our very lives are threatened by this. Look at the Asamang Tamfo. This is Asamang Tamfo, and you have seen many times what is going on in these areas. Look at it again. Right. This is Ghana. Yes. Let me quickly move on to Osino. There are some of you who have been really surprised. You go through the Linda Door when you are traveling to Kumasi or some place like that. And the Galamsey is happening right by the road, major road, very major road. Look at how the place is destroyed. This is Osino. Okay. Let me move a bit. Duaboso. Look, so that's horrifying all over. All over. This is the Accra Kumasi Road. Erastus has shown us some of it. You see, there cannot be aquatic life and so much damage that is happening. I'll just show you the last one here. Ghana Water Company Limited, Oda Headworks. Look at it. Look at the water. Okay. I'll end it here. So I'm going to my guest, Manso Kwachiabo. That is how terrible. Look at that. Just look at that. Take a look at that. Okay. Some of my guests don't even want to look at it. Yeah. Sorry. They don't want to look at it. All right. So I'm back here to find out what we can do, because something must be done, and now. My guests in the studio, Kofi Granting, 2024 Presidential Hopeful New Vision Movement. Felix Kwakye Ofosu is Special Aide, former President Mahama. He's NDC parliamentary candidate. Abura Asebu Kwaman Kese, Professor Dr. Ernest York, Vice President, Ghana Medical Association. Those joining us via Zoom, Professor Kwesi Ening. We have Nana Yao. We have Nana Yao Berima Bani, Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Water Company Limited Central Region. They issued a statement. Dr. Ishmael Kweku, Minerals, Environmental and Safety Expert and Senior Lecturer and Coordinator, Sustainable Artisanal and Small-Scale Mining Hub, University of Mines and Technology, TAQUA. Of course, our good friend, Martin Kweku AC, Chief Executive Officer of the Minerals Commission, also join us. Gentlemen, we thank you very much for your patience, and we would like to ask a few questions. I'd like to go to the duty bearers, but before we do that, I want to take brief comments, your preliminary comments, in about 2-3 minutes each from you before I go to them, so they will understand your sentiments even before they make their comments. I'll start with Dr. York, and we have seen your statement where you make clear demands. You are asking for an emergency action.
Yeah, thank you, Samson, and good morning once again to your viewers. So we came together as a coalition, a loose coalition of all associations and unions in health. We are 9 in number to issue the statement, but it has taken us time to do that. And we had to agree on certain points before we could come out. But the background to what it is that over time, over the period, we've been issuing press statements, press releases, and us as Ghana Medical Association, we've even had public lectures. We've had annual general conferences solely dedicated to, Galamsey. But it has fallen on deaf ears. And the situation is getting worse by the day. So we think that, we must change course. That is why we rallied our colleagues in the various aspects, in various sectors in health, to come out with this statement, because we think, that the brunt of the effect of this wanton destruction of the environment and of our valuable resources is on health. Yes, we can talk about the social impact. I think you've amply demonstrated that since this morning, the effect, on our forests, water bodies and all. But it is home. It's something must be done. Now let me paint you a picture. It has affected me directly. My daughter is in one of the schools in Cape Coast, and I don't want to mention the school. We contributed to buy, containers or, the overhead tanks for them for water storage. Yet there is water is not flowing. So we have now had to go forward to contribute to buying water for them from tankers. So it's getting home. Or now Waterworks. I have a family, that as we speak. If I were home there, I visit them regularly. And this is not the dream that I knew when I was a child. So it really hitting home. And we are saying that we need to change courses. Look, you talk about the health impact, and I'll just paint you a little picture. Look, I travel along the Accra-Kumasi route. I stop at Aboso Kind Chop Bar. I don't know whether any of you have stopped there to eat food sometimes. I love to do that. But I'm beginning to revise my nose. You know why? Because the Akante and the Bunabunu meat that you are eating, you don't know how it's contaminated. And the reason I'm afraid now to continue doing so is because the arsenic and the mercury that may have gotten into this grass cutter that you're enjoying is non-biodegradable. I underscore that. So that it stays within the body, the plants, the animals that get contaminated from the poison soils and the poison water. It stays within them, it gets passed on.
And Dr. Sampene has actually done a research within this area and confirmed this.
Absolutely,
That's
yes.
what Erasmus was referring to.
And Professor Sampene is a member of the Medical Association, and we are aware of these facts. And beyond that, look, I have nephrologists who are working. I work with the university, and I work in Kolebu as well. And there are tons of publications that suggest that it has gone beyond just the immediate environs of the Galamsey area, and it is coming to town. So you live in Accra and you think that you are safe. I tell you, if you go to Agbobloshi, go to Malata to buy food, it is coming home. And the dire consequence, you may not have seen it now. Of course, somebody has demonstrated that it's happening now. But in the long term, it's going to affect your kidneys. Do we even know whether this kidney disease that is on the rise is partly due to Galamsey effect? I believe so. The arsenic, let me give you a little background story. It is said and postulated that one of the reasons why the Roman Empire collapsed was because of mercury. In fact, they had a god called Mercury. They valued mercury, and important ornaments and caps were laden or lined with mercury. So the top echelons probably overconsumed mercury, and people think that it led to, dementia and all that. But that's, on the lighter side. But most importantly, the health implications is what we are worried about.
You have noted in your statement that effort by media and civil society organizations have yielded little impact. We are at a point where, and I underline this, if immediate action is not taken, Ghana will face an environmental catastrophe that will severely compromise health, well-being, and future of its people. You mean we will face? We are not there?
Well, okay, so the thing is that we can change course, but those of us on this table, those of you watching us, listening to us, when was the last time you drank tap water? Nobody. We don't. So already we are afraid, and it's affecting us. So we don't want it to get worse. Even the sachet water and the bottled water that we're using, how safe are they? We are now importing water. So yes, we probably are there, but we're saying that better late than never.
Okay.
We can't change course. And that is why we are saying that the president, who wields the ultimate power, the executive president, because the sovereignty resides in the people, but power, as we have it in our constitution, ultimately resides in the president. And he must take the lead and say that enough is enough. Let's pause.
You have three main demands.
Yes, we do.
A total ban on small-scale mining operations with immediate effect, whether legal or illegal. When I read that portion, I said, they mean business.
No, we do.
Then two, that there should be a clampdown on all persons who flout the directives and prosecute them expeditiously. And three, that political parties should make a public declaration and publish a duly signed document on their commitment to fight illegal and unethical mining activities in Ghana. But you didn't end there. You said that if these your demands are not met, you say we cannot guarantee industrial harmony if our demands are not heeded.
Samson, absolutely. But let me just clarify the issue about whether legal or illegal. The videos you showed, a lot of them have legal licenses, yet the environment is being pillaged. So it means that it hasn't worked. And I will tell you that this community mining program, for me, is an euphemism for Galamsey. Because there's no control. The environment is being decimated. So we are saying that, what we're calling illegal or illegal, is all the devastating environment. So we need to pause. And if you are going in one direction and you need to change direction, you need to stop first before you can change direction.
I understand you have data that you will be speaking to, so we'll get to that shortly. But when you say it's a euphemism for illegal mining, Reverend Father Joseph Blay says, quote, "Forget community mining. It's just a school and baptism name for Galamsey."
Absolutely. And he couldn't be more right.
Felix.
Samson, I will be blunt. This government, the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia government will go down in infamy for the destruction of our environment that they have superintended and supervised. I have been in government before, Samson, so I refuse to accept that the state of Ghana, with its vast resources, is not in a position to tackle the illegal activities of, let's say, hundreds or even thousands of young men and women who are going about destroying our environment. As you know, Galamsey or illegal mining started off as a socio-economic problem. Basically, there were desperate youth who, because of unemployment, resorted to this activity to earn a living. Soon, they realized that the returns were so lucrative that it was much better than going into conventional forms of employment like agriculture or any other. And so it became a bit difficult to win them off this activity. Every now and then you would hear about even legal firms, legal mining firms, large-scale mining firms, and even medium-scale mining firms engaging in activity that violated the law. That generated some debates. I mean, there was back and forth. Sometimes regulation was brought in to check the activities. Something, if the problem had remained this, I am fairly certain that we would have overcome it long ago. Because like I said, I don't think that the state of Ghana does not have the capacity to deal with such miscreants or bandits destroying our environment. The problem that we have, and the reason why it has escalated to this scale, is that there are greedy, corrupt, money-loving people in the ruling government and ruling party that have gotten involved in this activity. And because of their complicity, they are unable to take the actions that would ensure that we effectively win the battle against illegal mining. Because in your inserts, the inserts that you've played, the reports that your journalists have filed, we have heard the involvement of general secretaries, women organizers, regional chairmen, city mayors, MCs, DCs, parliamentary candidates, presidential staffers, all belonging to this ruling party involved in this activity. How does a government, on the back of a new regulation that is enacted, give concessions to people who form companies overnight, simply because they belong to their political party, to go into forest reserves that, as you yourself say, have global environmental significance, and destroy it in the manner that they are doing without any action being taken against them? The Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP sets up a company, goes very close to a river source, and engages in activity that clearly violates the regulations governing that sector.
I think we cannot confirm that he has breached any law.
But
the regulation allows the president to give consent for mining in forest reserve
when the president,
in the national interest.
What national interest has the activities engaging like these people?
Tax.
What tax? Samson, what tax? What improvements have they brought to the national kitty to warrant this? And is it every money that is acceptable to the state? So today, if armed robbers volunteer to start paying tax, we would accept it simply because it boosts our coffers. Is that the argument that is being made? And how is it that the only people who benefit from this special dispensation are MPP people, some of whom do not have any experience or capacity in mining? They form mining companies within days, and they receive concessions, they receive permits to go into areas that they should not be going into. So the problem is, in my view, not the young men and women who are desperately looking for jobs who are involved in the activity. The problem is the entry into the fray of this government. The problem is the governmental complicity. The problem is the greed, the immorality, the corruption of those we have entrusted with the affairs of the country. So when Professor York and his folks call for action on the part of the citizenry, I think that is in the right order. The problem, the issue, Samson, is that this government has demonstrated that they are never going to address this problem because they benefit from it primarily. And so we citizens have a duty also. And part of it is what Professor York and his colleagues have embarked on. Public action, public demonstrations, making the calls, insisting that the right things should be done. But Lardy, Samson, I beg your pardon. The people of Ghana, in their generality, have an opportunity to stop this trend. You see, there's an election coming. It is true that we in the NDC want to win power. But everybody knows that I speak the truth when I say that one of the ways, perhaps the most effective way of ensuring that at least we begin to see a genuine fight to address this canker is to boot out the government that has failed so spectacularly. Because Samson, what they have done is a stunning historic failure.
And in Nusafuseni, we're told about some 5,500 Chinese nationals that had to be deported because of Galamsey. And there were in excess of some 200 West African nationals who also had to be deported because of Galamsey. What that tells me is that the problem is not a problem of today.
Absolutely, but sometimes I made the point.
It is rather in the NPP Akufo-Addo administration that the fight has been escalated as never before. Nonetheless, it is within the same period that we are seeing the most failure.
I'm not coming back. Okay, all right.
Yes. So, Kofi?
Samson, I first of all, a good morning to your viewers and to the whole of Ghana, and to our esteemed panelist, Dr. York, and this troublemaker of Phoenix. It's a pleasure to be here, and Samson, good to see you again. But I'm saddened. I thank you for taking our knowledge base to a whole level. But it has saddened me even more to accept the realization that which I knew and I thought about Galamsey is just a tip of the iceberg. So thank you. I think joy to your reporters. You've done a fabulous job, and to the whole crew, stay on top of what you do. But Samson, we are under siege. Ghana is under siege by an unscrupulous cartel of criminals known as MPP and NDC. And I think the NDC is actually worse than the MPP, and let me tell you why in this fight. Because you sit with the criminals, as he has said, pointed out. If the MPP are the criminals doing this, unleashing this onto Ghanaians, and you sit with them in Parliament, and you have a mandate to stop them, and you don't, because obviously all the concessions come through Parliament. You don't stop them. You wait for the fire to start, and then you ring the bell. Hello, 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 there's fire on the mountain. This is what the NDC does best. And I am so disappointed, because we shouldn't even be sitting here talking about Galamsey, because Galamsey has never been, it's not the problem. We don't have a Galamsey problem. It's never been a Galamsey problem. Galamsey is an adaptive sociological response to what the real problem is, which is leadership. It is leadership that has failed. It is not Galamsey that is bad. And like I always say, when you take a look at this menace, it almost seems as if we are children of a lesser God, and we forget that no, we're not children of a lesser God. We're actually citizens of non-caring government, a non-caring leadership that's in NDC and MPP. And like you rightly said, this problem has not only been in the MPP administration, this problem has been in also the NDC administration. It's just gotten worse because it's been ballooning all along. And we need to come together, and I'm asking Ghanaians, listen, all the efforts being made to stop, to go out and protest, to demonstrate, to give perspectives on how this should be, it's not going to get anywhere. We are at the point where the cancer has metastasized. It's full-blown cancer beyond the 4th stage. It's terminal. The patient is terminal. And at this point, no amount of chemotherapy will help, no amount of radiation will help. Maybe we could go in and take out the tumor. But I'm glad Doc is here. He will tell you at this point of this, how extensive this cancer had gotten to. Our only solution, maybe doctor will not be able to tell you, but I'll tell you, this government or the NDC government will not solve the Galamsey problem. They cannot, they will not. They will talk and kiss and hug the problem. They will never solve it because they are not about solving it. These are two criminal entities who have taken over Ghana.
Okay, so you are repeating that the NDC and the NPP are legally permitted entities in this country.
Criminal entities.
They are not criminal organizations.
They're criminal.
They are not criminal organizations.
Well,
you are allowed to say that there are some elements within them who are doing wrong, but not to say they are criminal entities because they are not.
Okay, so you may not say that they are criminal entities by your definition, but my definition by what they're doing, it doesn't seem to me that they want to fix our problems. They're actually making it worse for Ghanaians. They're killing Ghanaians. Anybody who kills us by the Constitution, and you, the expert, is a criminal. And if they're killing, like Doctor rightfully said, people are dying, your reporter said, people are dying from the levels of toxicity in our water, in our foods. Our tubers are now going to be absorbing the arsenic and the mercury and all the heavy metals.
Okay, so that was supposed to be just your opening comments. Then I'll bring in the duty bearers. We will then return to you for your substantive comments, even though some of you have already started doing so. Do I have Prof. Sakwesieni on the line? Okay. Hello, Prof.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Give me your summary of the circumstances we face. I've heard you and other persons within the security, space suggest that this is becoming something else. I'm sure you will remind me that you are not saying this the first time. So give me just a summary of it, and then we'll return to you because I want the duty bearers to answer a few questions.
This has become an existential threat in which we are seeing levels of collusion between both public and private officials in whose hands our destiny has been given in trust. And I think anyone who talks about citizen action does not understand the complexity of the criminal networks that underpin Galamsey and the transnational organized criminality, leading to illicit financial flows out of Ghana, leading to the deliberate flouting of state rules, leading to challenging and undermining our notions of some of our cultural beliefs. Where are the gods of the rivers when they can be polluted this way? So this Galamsey, and I agree 100% with the previous speaker, must be handled the way it ought to. We've got to call a spade a spade. I think we've tinkered with it for far too long. Public officials, private officials, chiefs, local level government officials, those who use the word citizen action, forget that those small boys and girls who are involved first are seeking their livelihoods, but secondly, they are funded by Chinese, Burkinabes, Indians, Turks, in which the gold that they are panning are funding other criminal activities in West Africa and much further afield. This is an existential threat, and I think it is the failure of our institutions and leaders that they are reluctant to declare it aside. we are on the verge, a cutting verge of tipping over into something that we will not be able to go back.
Prof, you are not saying this the first time, and I can recall the number of times we have had you in the last how many years, and you continue to use the expression existential threat. And if it's getting worse, then what is it? We just give up? Is that what we are doing?
No, we shouldn't give up. And I think I'm horribly disappointed with Dr. Party when he lambasts the MP. Yes, they faulted. But when their own government was in power, their actions were disastrous. People deliberately got involved and bought equipment when these mines or when this equipment was. This has gone beyond politics. Politics is too serious a business to be left for politicians. And they realize the importance of the voices that are coming up. Too little, too late, but nevertheless useful. I mean, institutions have issued statements. Where were they when this problem started? Why have people kept so quiet so long? Because of their fancy positions, because of their Cap 71 benefits. The levels of hypocrisy that we've demonstrated in our beloved Ghana shows to me that when we raise our voices and sing the national anthem, we don't even mean it. We don't understand the words in it. We don't understand the rights and the duty that we have as Ghanaians, never to allow this to happen. Okay, we shut up. And right now, cocoa is under threat. Our basic food sources are under threat. We can barely get water to drink. Okay, and institutions have sat on the sidelines and benefited. Rules and regulations have been made that undermines institutions. Okay, this is a collective failure that has brought us to where we are. And probably we have about 3 to 5 more years before we have a total collapse of the state.
Prof, we understood in the lead up to the 2016 elections that the government had actually commissioned a certain report into this, and at the time was intending to use that as the blueprint for the solution. And then the NPP started to do the propaganda that both parties do, that you're going to lose your jobs because NDC is coming to do ABC with those of you who are into small-scale mining and the rest of them. And so, for their political survival, they shelved that report. Well, they lost elections anyway. In 2017, soon after the government came in, we became aware of a BNI report, a 31-page BNI confidential report that listed about 400 towns and villages, excluding the Volta region and Accra, where Galamsey was actively going on with the active connivance of chiefs, state officials, MPs, politicians, and so on and so forth. So they have what it takes. They know the problem. How do we get the solution?
No, Samson, when you know the extent of a problem, but you've colluded and your hands are tainted, you cannot act. Because we've seen quite a number of these companies mining in forest reserves, also funding statutory institutions. Now, particularly when those institutions deal with security and intelligence and are supposed to carry out operations against these entities, then it raises several questions. One, what is the level of due diligence that is performed when people come bearing gifts? Two, how does the acceptance of those gifts taints the capacity of these institutions to deliver the public service goods of protecting the public interest. Okay, so we can do all the reports that we like. We can draw all the interlinkages. But so far as we are tainted by virtue of pollution and by extension dirtying our hands, then we don't have that integrity and the moral suasion to say we are going to punish. And therein lies my argument that we need something different, which I don't know. Because whoever wins the December 7th election does not have the gumption to take this fact to the Galamsey.
Oh, really?
If the Intelligence Bureau was anything to go back, and we said, look, every single person who has offered himself or herself for public office, do an analysis and a background check in terms of their linkages to institutions, to companies, to groups that are threatening the survival of Ghana. Probably less than 20% of those people will survive. All right. This is a canker, and I agree with the gentleman in the blue that we are probably at cancer stage 4.5.
Nana Yao Berima, right? Nana Yao Berima Bani,
Nana Yao,
public relations officer. Let me go to him. Let me go to him. He's going to give us a certain perspective here. Public relations officer of the Ghana Water Company Limited, Central Region. Nana Yao, thank you very much for joining us. And you issued a statement. And in the statement, you've got many people very angry and scared at the same time. Why do you sit and allow for so long a time before you come to tell us that where we needed 2,000, whatever you call it, NTU, now we are talking about average. You are currently recording water turbidity level of 14,000 NTU, and you are unable to treat as much water as is required. You say about 60% of the catchment capacity is silted as a result of illegal mining, Galamsey, compromising the quality of raw water. We are currently recording an average turbidity of 14,000 NTU instead of 2,000 NTU designed for adequate treatment. Currently, the plant is able to produce only about 7,000, is it 7,500 millimeters a day, a quarter of its installed capacity. So you are giving a warning and caution here that things are getting really bad. I also have understood that additionally, those of you around such areas, you used to treat the water with alum. Now you are treating the water with something else, I've forgotten the name, and it costs 4 times the price of alum to treat. Why do you sit until this to tell us about, like Professor Enning has just confirmed, associated himself with Kofi Kuranting's statement? We are going beyond cancer stage.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, it's really not the case that Ghana Water Company has sat down for the matter, the Galamsey situation, to get that worse. That is not really the case. In fact, I could be described as somebody who has spoken about Galamsey more than anyone else, especially because I work in an area where our source of abstraction, that is our source water, is Galamsey infected. I have spoken a lot about Galamsey, and sometimes I get a bit worried that it's like I'm speaking too much on Galamsey. We have spoken, we have taken the media to a treatment plant at Secheheman. We have taken the media to a treatment plant at Daboase, where the Pra River is abstracted. We abstract the Pra River at Secheheman. The same Pra River also comes to Daboase. We abstract it at Daboase. We have taken the media. I'm sure your reporter who is in either Cape Coast or Takoradi will tell you that we have taken them there on a number of occasions. There was a time that a very important visitor came to Western region, and we had to take that important visitor to Daboase. And whilst at the intake is a place where the low lift pumps, the pumps that abstract the raw water from the Pra River are installed. That is the house, the pumping house for abstracting raw water. Whilst there, we saw with our naked eyes, not with a telescope, but with our naked eyes, everybody saw the Galamsey people operating as close to the intake point. And that visitor, important, very important visitor I'm talking about, also saw the people working. So we have spoken a lot. Well, I thank God that now it's gaining traction, it's gaining attention, it's gaining publicity, and everybody is talking about it. The aim of this statement that was issued is to highlight, to bring out to the public, for everybody to know, to hear that Galamsey is really wreaking havoc. So it is not today. We didn't start today. We didn't start yesterday. I have been here for over 7 years, and I've been speaking about it all the time. And I don't shy away from speaking about it, because Galamsey is a terrible menace. It's something that is going to spell the doom of Ghana. How can we afford to treat water that has a turbidity of 14,000 NTU? When the plant was built, I mean the Secheheman treatment plant, when it was built, the turbidity that they had in mind at the time, as I spoke to the water quality manager who was in Central Region some time ago, he tells me the design, they had in mind 500 NTU. In fact, Daboase, when the plant was built, and my understanding is that at the time, the raw water turbidity was 200 NTU. And we have got to now 14,000 in Secheheman. So, Samson, it is not the case that I have sat down for the matter to get worse before talking about it. I have been talking about it. You can go to your archives and you get a lot of interviews that I've granted to your station about Galamsey. We thank God now is gaining the right attention.
All of this is traced to Galamsey. The Ghana Medical Association, with its other umbrella organizations, 9 of them together, they say that the way forward for them is for the president to issue an absolute ban. Do you agree to that?
I very much agree with them. In fact, the aim of Ghana Water Company in bringing out this statement is that attention should be drawn to it, so that Galamsey on river bodies, our aim. In fact, it happens elsewhere, but I'm sure there are other people who deal with it. But on river bodies, Ghana Water Company want to see Galamsey stopped entirely. When I was a child and I lived in the village in Ashanti region, whenever we were going to farm, we didn't have to take water to farm. Why?
You're right.
There were rivers along the path.
You're absolutely right.
That will be able to fetch the water along the path and take it to our farm and then use it.
Right.
But now, Samson, if you are going to farm and you decide that you won't take sachet water or bottled water, you will starve until you come back home. So why are we experiencing this now? It's because
this is not happening. This is not happening only in the coastal areas. I'm from the Upper East. The Black Volta, I had first-hand experience. We go to the farm and we can drink from it. We can use the water to bath. We don't need anything to sanitize the water. Now they cannot do that anymore.
That is where, unfortunately, as a country, we have elected to bring our water bodies to. God loves Ghana so much. It appears Ghana is the only country that God loves because we have everything. Now, talking about water, we have so many river bodies, and these are huge river bodies. Now, let's talk about River Pra. Well, I don't know whether you've been to Cape Coast or Takoradi before. At Beposo, you encounter River Pra. This is a huge body of water, but that body of water has been reduced to a drain, a water running through the drain. That's what we have now. So if this thing has gained attention, and we are going to have absolute ban that will be enforced to ensure that nobody, absolutely nobody, enters the river to dig for gold, then I'm sure that the river body will rejuvenate itself. In a matter of time, we are going to see colorless water. We are going to see water or river that doesn't have any color at all, because one of the properties of water is that it is colorless. So we must get to a point where River Pra, the water in River Pra, will become colorless, and we can stand at the bank of this river, this huge water body nature has gifted us with, and we can see the fishes swimming in the river. That is what we are all waiting for. That's what we are all hoping. Oh yes, I am a very religious person. Now I know for sure, in my lifetime, I am going to see all these river bodies regaining their natural state, unlike what we see now.
I'm wondering if you are sure we can get to this ideal state. And presently, you are looking that it is possible to get back to treating the water with 500 NTU. Is that your hope?
Yes, that is my hope. That is my hope. And well, I was on Joy News and PM Express on Tuesday, this last Tuesday, and whilst going home, or on the next day, I heard Honorable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Abu Jinabo, saying that they are going to come back again and do, and that is what we thank God and we bless God for His life, that this will be done. And you see, we want Galamsey miners, these Galamsey operators, these illegal miners on river body flushed out of our river bodies entirely. That's what we are hoping for. But as to how
under
that will be done,
under the current circumstances, we are looking to pay more for the water because you have to do a treatment that costs you almost 4 times what you would have done, right?
Yes, please let me talk about the current chemical we are using in treating River Pra. In fact, River Pra has been polluted to the extent that aluminum sulfate, the full name, aluminum sulfate, is no longer effective in treating water from River Pra. But we need to see the water anyway. So we've gone in for another chemical called polyelectrolyte or polymer for short. And this polymer I'm talking about is 4 times more expensive than alum, as I've been told. 4 times more expensive than alum. So it means that our treatment cost has now gone up. Well, if that is the case, definitely our managing director and our top management, when they are going in for review of tariff, they will have to factor in this new chemical. Because Ghana Water Company does not get any money from anywhere for our day-to-day operations apart from the tariff we are giving and the bills we send to customers. So definitely it will have to be factored into the tariff so that we are able to gain something out of it. So we don't run at a loss to the extent that the company will grind to a halt because of lack of financial resources. So definitely, all of us, I'm also a payer of water bills, I'm a consumer of water bill, then I pay my water bill. I'm also going to pay, you are going to pay, all of us are going to pay because of the grace. Let me put it this way, because of the grace of illegal miners. Because of the grace of illegal miners. It is quite a terrible thing that must not continue from today going.
Thank you very much, Nana Yao Berima Bani, and you can tell the passion with which he speaks is not just doing public relations. They were treating it, this was set to be treated at, is it 200? And they had gone to, is it 500? And now it's 14,000 MTU. When they were even hoping that they could treat at 2,000 MTU. It's 14,000. They were treating with alum. Alum can no longer treat the water. And he said they are treating now with some polymeric something. So, and that's one is costing them 4 times the price. We'll come to Dr. York shortly about the potential dangers as we use these chemicals in treating the untreatable water. But joining us also, so Martinez, thank you. Please stay there, be patient, because we are coming to you. You must answer a few questions because it is clear that regulatory compliance is the issue. You are responsible for regulating. You are supposed to be monitoring. You are supposed to make sure that those who are breaching, there is action. Erasmus has given us a list which has become public knowledge. Outright violations, no punishment is going on. Abu Jinapo is also joining us at this moment. He should join us so that we ask him a few questions about that. You know, for example, the excavators, there's a specific law that is made that the excavators will be fitted with certain monitors, tracking devices. So you will know where each excavator goes. If it goes the wrong place, you can sanction the owners. And the owners are supposed to be paying, is it annual or quarterly, some money for the purposes of this tracking process. Those monies are being paid, as we understand. So what is going on that an excavator can go the wrong way and do the wrong things and endanger all of us? And that's your job. Dr. Ishmael Kweku, are you with us? Please unmute your mic. The Galamsey doctor, as we understand, they call you to signify the fact that you are the one who has been helping to heal and address the challenges in the sector. He's a minerals, environmental, and safety expert and a senior lecturer and coordinator, the Sustainable Artisanal and Small-Scale Mining Hub, University of Mines and Technology, Takwa. Hello, Doc.
Hello, Samson.
Great.
Good morning.
Great. So we have been told of solutions that led to Operation Halt, Operation Vanguard, Phase 1, Phase 2. And as the Media Foundation for West Africa's investigations have even just revealed, one of their guys, Francis Owusu Echao, the NPP's 2024 parliamentary candidate, who is linked to how many companies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. As the man who registers these companies, he was secretary to the committee. He was on the committee, interministerial committee against illegal mining. And we are told that at the time, he allegedly suggested to the secretary to the committee, Charles Bisu, who also had to get out of that place, that they could take advantage of their positions on the committee to get involved in small-scale mining. This is the man who is now the middleman connecting a lot of politically exposed persons, including people at the presidency, to mine in the forest reserve, significant biodiversity areas. Can we win this fight?
Thank you very much, Samson, and your distinguished panel members, and also your cherished viewers. I will start with a statement, and I think that will define the thought patterns and how we see things going forward. In terms of socio-economic potential, I see the small-scale mining sector, whether legal or illegal, as a sleeping giant. But here is the caveat, that this is the key thing. But its negative impact, if not managed well, becomes suicidal. And I guess we have gotten to that suicidal stage. That is why we are getting all this attention for the sector. Can we win the fight? Yes.
We are losing you there. But did you say yes? A president put his presidency on the line. 7 years down the line, we have not won it. And you are still hopeful?
Yes, I'm very hopeful. Samson, the reason being that I have been involved with the sector since 2014 in Ghana, not only in Ghana, but in other sub-African regions, other African countries, where I have contributed to their development of their sector. And I have seen them moving from west to, not best, however, they are on the way of getting there where they expect to be. So I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful that we could get there if the right things are brought on the table, because the challenges are multifaceted. And therefore, just one approach wouldn't address these challenges. We need all hands on deck. And then we also need community commitment, right? The challenges we are seeing now, yes, people are saying political and stuff, but personally, I will look at it from the perspective that Ghanaians are not being citizens. Again, we are being spectators, because the miners are within our communities. They are mining on the river bodies. All the negative stuff they are doing are within the communities. We don't need the president to come to the community and stop them. We have traditional leaders. We have community members. It is our responsibility to ensure that our natural resources are protected. And so, therefore, I will say that, look, until we all wake up from our slumber and decide to protect our natural resources, our lands and our water bodies, the president, the government policies may be enacted, but it will not address the issue. And that is where I'm coming from, that I'm very hopeful that when we bring all our expertise, or we bring all our desires and commitment together, we can uproot the illegalities in our community.
The fight was escalated under Akufo-Addo. It's been at the height, and this is where we have seen the worst. What have you diagnosed has been the cause of the failure? Give us three, quick.
Well, quick one. Let me say this. All these things that we are seeing, they have been happening. However, I think this is a period is received a lot of attention, and it's also a period where a lot of people have also realized the socio-economic potential in the sector, and therefore we've had a lot of people coming in. Now, for instance, if we take some of the strategies that I believe had failed in terms of bringing the military on board, one, the strategy in tackling that with the military, I think were not clear. The strategies were not clear enough. The second one was that there was a community resistance, because some communities' economies are evolving around these Galamsey stuff. So therefore, they place in some resistance against the military. And the third thing is that the social fabrics, how our social dynamics. Because when somebody is arrested, right, they run to the Juantua Hene and the Juantua people in the communities to come and then plead on their behalf. And therefore, we are not able to effectively implement our policies and even, enforce the laws that we have. So these are the things that I see.
What will be your one solution that needs focus for government going forward in fighting this?
Right. Let's put it this way. When we talk of small-scale mining, a lot of us have bundled the activities. There are phases, there are different types and forms. But going forward, currently, one of the most steps I would love government to do is to completely ban any form of activities on our river bodies. It is not a negotiable step. And it also requires commitment and the rally and the entire country. There should be a complete ban of activities on our river bodies. So kind of a state of emergency. And also all operations that are discharging their effluent and wastewater into our river bodies completely needs to be stopped. And we can use technologies to monitor all these activities, including the military and all other agencies. So that should be the first focus. First and foremost, there needs to be an emergency, state of emergency declared on working on our river bodies, discharging wastewater in there. And then we talked about the forest reserves being also encroached. We could put a ban on that, and then we start reviewing the operations of these activities case by case to ensure that they are aligning with what our law permits. If their practices are contrary to our environmental management practices, then we cease their operation completely. These are some of the few thoughts I think could help address the issue.
Thank you very much, Doc. And we thank you for also making yourself available to the state in seeking to help this for over a long time, to the point that now they call you the Galamsey doctor for very good reasons and not any negative purposes, that he's the one whose interventions have helped to heal and address the situation. Thank you also very much. Now, I think I can return to my guests in the studio as we begin to look at their substantive points in detail in wrapping up. But whilst Abu Jinapo is not available, let's go to Martin Kweku AEC, Chief Executive Officer of the Minerals Commission. Thank you very much for your patience, sir. Hello, Ms. AC. Okay. Please unmute your mic. Please unmute your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Great. That's perfect. Thank you very much.
You've kept me waiting for hours.
Yes, please forgive me.
The simple reason is that I'm on my way back to Ghana and
sorry.
I was interested in joining this at all costs.
Very sorry about that. Thank you. Now,
so at a point in time, I may switch to my phone.
Okay.
In the corridors heading towards the airport.
Yes, we're actually taking you just briefly so that you can retire to what you have to do. Over the period, what we hear has to do pure and simple with regulatory compliance. We have all the good laws about small-scale mining, community mining, if they were adhered to, and that's your job, to make sure they are adhered to, we will not have this problem. People are not supposed to mine within a certain radius to the water bodies. But what do we see? All the water polluted to the point the Ghana Water Company is talking about 14,000 NTU, when the average should be 2,000 to be treatable.
Thank you, Samson. Please, can you hear me?
Clearly, sir.
Samson, I want to clarify just a few things before I tell you what I think or my perspective of the whole issue. Number one, I think I'm being humbled by the remarks of Professor Anyenini, and he just said two things which we need to pay attention to. Take the politics out, and we must accept collective responsibility. So let me try and answer your question along that line. Samson, so this particular answer borders on the issue of collective responsibility. Now, I wanted to separate what is lawfully permitted and what is illegal. Because in a way, it's also good I'm perhaps getting to the last speaker. Because you see, as we discuss the illegal mining issue, we tend to color the issue of what is lawfully allowed and what is not allowed. Let me just say this. There are certain rules and protocols that you need to get or go through to mine lawfully in the forest reserve. So, for instance, and it's important that I explain this. It's important because I'm seeing a lot of confusion out there. People are making statements that are not right. So we need to clarify that. So, number one, before anybody can work lawfully in the forest, you need some kind of a license signed by the minister acting on the recommendation of the Minerals Commission. Very important. You need an EPA permit, an environmental permit from the Environmental Protection Council. You also need a forestry entry permit. And then on top of that, you even need to sit down with the forestry and have an arrangement. So for instance, if you're going to destroy an acre, you need to do an offset and replant maybe 3, 4, 5 times. It's important we understand this. So Samson, to the extent that you don't have any of these approvals or authorizations, anything that you do there is illegal. We need to understand that first. I'm saying this because nobody is talking about what Newmont is doing at Jendua Pebble Forest Reserve, because they have all the protocols, they follow all the rules. Nobody is talking about that. Number 2, we've been mining in the forest reserve in Awaso area, bauxite, since 1940s, if you like, the Second World War. Nobody discusses that. And then even Chirano also mines in the forest. Why am I saying that? Why am I giving these examples? That is not to say that I'm denying the fact that illegalities are there. I mean, what we are saying is horrifying. So you take Newmont, you take Chirano, you take the other one, bauxite, and if these things are not being discussed, are not being mentioned, that means that something right is being done. Now, the question is, how do we sit down and people get up and go to the forest? And then without forestry entry permit, without EPA permit, without a license, carry out activity? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. Something is wrong somewhere.
Yeah, that's the question I asked you.
Yes, but it's not that I'm backpassing. I can answer that one, but I wish Forestry Commission was here to answer. Is it the case that he has not got a capacity, or there are other issues? He will be best person to answer that. But then let me just come to the area that concerns me. So the Konongo one.
Hold on, sir, respectfully. You know, as a matter of fact, from where you sit,
yes,
that there are entities and individuals that are entering these places without the requisite licenses, correct?
Yes.
Those who are responsible for giving the licenses, who have watched for this to happen, should they be keeping their offices?
I cannot answer that.
Hello?
Yes. Those like your outfit, responsible for ensuring that you have a license to enter and to do prospecting or mining, who have watched for these breaches to go on, do they deserve to keep their offices?
Samson, I'll give you a very simple answer. And it's important you know how the system works. So you have a district officer of the Minerals Commission at Konongo. He's a district officer. What is his job? His job is that he has a certain jurisdiction where he's been provided all the necessary working tools. He is to go around and ensure that persons who have been given licenses work within the law. That is his job. Now, in the course of doing that, it may come to his attention, either people being, assemblymen or persons living in the community will bring it to his attention and say, hey, activities are going on here, and it is his duty to go there and find out whether or not those people have license or they have all the requisite approvals. So he goes there, he sees that there's an illegal activity going there, and to the extent that he didn't handle and did the processing, it is illegal. What is he supposed to do by way our governance system operates? The officer is supposed to quickly inform the district assembly and says that there's an activity going on here. They don't have license, so please go and stop it. That's one angle. That is one angle I want you to understand. Now, what the assembly is supposed to do, as they're in charge of dissect, is supposed to go there and go and stop it. So I'll give you the Konongo one. So the Konongo one, the officer goes there, he spotted activity, and he duly informed the assembly. What is the assembly supposed to? So he's done his job. So I cannot say we should dismiss the district officer of the Minerals Commission at Konongo, or perhaps I should lose my job because somebody was working close to the what do you call it, the roadside. So they informed the assembly that this is being done, is illegal. People are having mining operations going on within houses or the alleyways. These are illegal. What is the assembly supposed to do? Assembly is in charge of dissect. All that the MC needed to do was to mobilize the appropriate security authorities, go there and clamp on them. Because the commission is not supposed to go and start evicting people. That's number one. Number two, some of these illegal sites, people are now carrying arms. People are carrying guns. I mean, you were in this country where, was it last year or 2 years ago, where some policemen were even humiliated, you know, where they were disarmed, and then you had accusations by the person saying that, oh, there was this guy who comes here and now, because they didn't give them money, they're coming to arrest him. That's also one.
Yeah, in fact, recently, I think in the Kibi area or so, in the Kibi area or so, hold on, I'm not going to anybody. I'm just making a point for you. In the Kibi area or so, the DC for the area just recently has spoken, and he spoke about how he took a task force to want to clamp down on illegal miners. And when they got there, he said the task force was about 30 or so, and they saw over 100 people. And these people who are mining, they were armed. And he said they had to beat the retreat because they were afraid for their lives. I can't understand why this should be happening. But I wanted to draw your attention to the picture you are watching in your shot right now. That is Mr. Owusu Echao.
Something hang on.
Okay.
You see, you should have paid perhaps serious attention to two key statements made by the professor, not the doctor, Professor Eni, the security expert. He mentioned two things. He says, take the politics out, and then let's look at collective responsibility. Before we come to that, I will answer that. Now, how on earth that you drive past Accra towards the eastern region there, and then you see illegal mining taking place behind a police station? Behind a police station. Behind a police station.
You should tell me, because that's your job. Have you given any concession? Have you given any concession behind the police station?
No. First, Minerals Commission did not give any license behind the police station.
Thank you.
And the officer there, I'm saying, I want to put this on record. I'm not saying we are a perfect institution, and that even there may not be regulatory challenges in those who are working lawfully. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just telling you, so if you live in a community where illegal mine, because there's no way we grant a concession or recommend the grant of a concession behind a police station. We have reported this several. So if behind the police station there's Galamsey going on, or activities that are deemed illegal per our law are taking place, and then there are several hundreds of people who are living in the community, they see the police people, and they are not doing anything, they are not arresting them, they are not prosecuting them. The other people who are living in the community, what do you expect them to do? They say, even behind the police station, the police sees and they don't care. Then the thing escalates. That's number one. Number two, a lot of chiefs are involved. The overlord of Ashanti, has been in the news of late. And not just one of incident. He's due so many people who are involved in Galamsey activities. So I kind of like what Professor Eni said. It's a collective responsibility. Clearly, the Konongo, I am putting the blame on the assembly. If the assembly has acted, we will not have what we are saying there.
Right.
So
I just wanted a quick one from you on this. The gentleman in your shot is Mr. Francis Owusu Echao. He's the NPP parliamentary candidate for the, is it Dwaboso constituency or Dwabin constituency? Dwabin constituency. Now, he's linked to at least those 15 companies you see there, particularly those who are putting in applications for forest reserves, and the few who have gotten it. And you find that the companies he's dealing with, almost all of them have politically exposed persons who are in there within this particular regime. This is a man in the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining who I suppose got sacked. And by the processes of registration, you require to know the individuals. You actually require to know their political affiliations before you give them a license. Under what circumstance does he become a middleman in securing licenses for entities in your regime?
Samson, let me clarify a few things. An application can be done by a company or can be done by a consultant. So maybe I would like to know from Seth whether he saw him as a beneficial owner in all these companies that I mentioned there. That's number one. I heard him somewhere because I think he was the one you gave him the second slot to speak.
Right.
If it's a consultant is anybody who could be hired to do applications on behalf of people. There are several mining companies that are registered with Minerals Commission and to provide mineral exploration rights and services to mining companies. In fact, Newmont, Gophers & Co. sometimes even use consultant. So that is neither here nor there. I think the issue should be whether or not any of the companies listed there have been involved in illegality.
His company's website boasts of connections with the people at the top as far as the regulatory and licensing acquisitions are concerned.
Well, I'm hearing that for the first time.
Okay, is there something you will do about it if you are not happy about such?
Come again, I'm not hearing.
Is there something you will do about it if you are not happy about it, that the website, boast of the fact that they have connections with your institution?
I've just been told, because I heard a set mentioning that, and I'm quite surprised he has to put something there. So that is it. But we're losing it all in the sense that you are mixing his job as a consultant as against whether or not any of the companies listed are involved in illegality. Perhaps what said he didn't tell us is whether the companies listed have been found to be involved in illegal mining. I think that is the crux of the matter, because the discussions on Galamsey. So let's be careful we don't confuse his role as a consultant that is helping other people get applications done as against whether or not those companies are involved in illegal mining.
Are you surprised that the companies that they discover, almost all of them politically exposed persons within the current regime? Are you surprised?
Samson, I'm not here to defend anybody or defend the indefensible. The question is there a law that prevents anybody from working?
Why does your law require a person to disclose their political affiliation before you give them a license?
Well, there are certain kinds of persons. For example, if you sit on the board of the Minerals Commission, you cannot be granted a license because that will be conflict of interest. So we normally get this information to help us do that. I can't give license to members of the Minerals Commission board because they are the same people who make the decisions. Okay. Even where issues come up and they need to sit on it, they need to disclose their interests, etc. I mean, the boss of Forestry Commission cannot be a shareholder in a company that is applying, for example, to mine lawfully in forest reserve. So those are the things that help us make that decision. So I wanted to separate the two carefully. And then Samson, I keep hearing this ban thing. Samson, we've been there before. And again, the discussion is about illegal mining. In other words, persons or individuals who don't have all the requisite authorizations to go and work and they are working, which is illegal. We need to separate it from several others who have gone through the mill and have obtained licenses and are working. So when you say we should ban small-scale mining, even lawfully, I have a problem with that. But I'm first to admit that the kind of things that we are seeing, which have been described variously, depending on who is talking, environmental terrorism, environmental nightmare and catastrophe, I'm the first person to say that this is not something we should be allowing to continue. But there is also one thing that I want us to understand carefully, and nobody is talking about it. Samson, what is that? The fundamental issue driving illegal mining. The fundamental issue driving illegal mining is getting a place for the miners to work. So whether we ban it, whether we deploy the entire Ghana Army, Navy, and all those things, the problem will not go away.
Okay.
You might get some respite for a while, and then to start all over again. So we will need to work towards addressing how to get a place for them to work. Right. So I was quite happy when I heard the Vice President saying that every year they'll make aside $10 million, see the equivalent, to assist geological survey, sort out the investigation. I've seen NDC manifesting saying that they will research geological survey. So at least both parties are beginning to understand the issue. But don't let's get emotional. Nobody likes this middle look-alike water body.
Tell me in a minute how you feel, because as we understand, when impunity is not punished, it will continue. How do you feel from where you sit? about the glaring situations. I have sat here and interviewed even DCEs who have pointed to wrongdoers, including chiefs within their backyard, you know, and nothing is happening to them. There are issues that have been reported to police, including the Akunta mining situation. And the president had to become a spokesperson for Akunta mining. How do you feel about these situations?
Oh, Samson, I can give you a very simple answer. I was born and bred in Accra, Newtown, also called Lagos Town. I was born 1970. I left Newtown 1997. There was nothing like bottled water when we were growing up. There was nothing like bottled water. We're drinking tap water, and that is service from Wager. That's Densu River. Okay? Today, I'll not drink tap water. But it's not about me because I can afford bottled water. But what are the people in my village who rely on these streams? It's very sad. Very, very, very sad. So that's how I feel. We shouldn't allow these things to go on. And then again, let me also correct Ishmael. He says there should be a ban on the use of certain machines and equipment on the water body. And I think my brother also from water company also said that we should ban everything on the water body. The laws are there. So we are not
at the moment, you don't have that much support because the majority of Ghanaians, as we can test their views, is that the situation is getting completely out of hand. And the first step, at least, is to place an absolute ban, presidential ban, on small-scale mining. Thank you very much, Mr. Isi.
No, something. Can I respond to that quickly? Something we got to be careful. I understand the outrage. We are all angry. This should not be happening. We understand the heavy metals, arsenic, and all those things. We get that. But then you should ask yourself, how do you sit down for people to get to the water body and then you don't go and kick them out? I'm saying that there are several other thousands of Ghanaians who have taken the trouble to obtain their licenses and they are doing very well. So I keep making this funny joke or excuse that something, your sister is a prostitute. Of course she's not. So the other sister should not be married. Okay, so let's deal with the cause of the problem. Okay, just enforce the law on the
effect that one prostitute's conduct has will not be the effect that Galamsey will have on me. Thank you very much. We'll take a break. We'll return to my guest in the studio.
Sure. No, swear to uphold its sovereignty. That is that the care of the nation, what's in it, its people, its resources, its nature have been put in your care temporarily as a trustee, like Nananum are trustees of the lands on which they occupy for their people. So you are too at the national level a trustee of the lands and the resources of our nation. So you ask yourself, how best can you discharge this trust? You sit back and say, well, all these young men don't have anything to do, so let it go on. At least it's better that they're earning something than they should be at home and perhaps causing other kinds of problems. When you know that the activities that they're involved in are jeopardizing the very survival of our nation. I took the decision that that would be a betrayal of the trust that the Ghanaian people put in me on the 7th of January this year. And as a result, we established this committee within the government to design a policy for us, not just to stop it, to reclaim the land, to let our rivers work again, but also to see how we can figure a way for all these able-bodied young men who are involved in this activity to find an alternative livelihood. So it's a package. It's a package that we have designed to try and bring this menace to a conclusion. I've said it in the cabinet, and perhaps this is the first time I'll be saying it in public. I am prepared to put my presidency on the line on this matter.
will debate this matter, we will sit down and listen. And I'm very happy when the minority leader challenged us that we will debate this matter and the culprit will be mentioned. In fact, we are ready to debate now. If we are to look and investigate both sides of the house, you have had the opportunity to rule this country before. I can tell you, you polluted the water more than us. You polluted the water more than us. So...
We are back. Thank you very much. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And in the studio, they will get the opportunity of brief, important but wrapping up comments. Felix Kwachio-Fosu, Professor Dr. Ernest York, and of course, Kofi Koranting. There is Dr. Momen, who led a process for the parties to give their views on how to resolve this issue at the University of Natural Resources, Energy. And he says, this is the way to go. Suspend all exploration, large or small scale. Suspend all small scale. Take inventory of all legal mining concessions in the country. Take inventory of all exploration concessions granted by the minister. Conduct an audit of all concessions to identify legal and illegal forest and water bodies overlap. Deploy a persistent, sustainable time series and near real-time satellite and RPA's assessment of trends up to now for both invasion and contamination. Deploy contact tracing for access to fields. Devise special registration for equipment brought for the purpose, such as construction or mining, for easy detection. Publish list of findings, including names of communities and traditional paramountcies hosting these, and expedient legal action. Thank you. Yes, Dr. York.
Thank you, Samson, for my turn again. And what I'll attempt to do is to look forward and see where we are. I think so far, for me, I would say it's becoming like another talk shop. And honestly, I really feel sad up to this point, and I was almost in tears. I was. Should be. And I saw Mr. Kranting, having the same feeling, and I don't know. Look, it is time for us, the citizens, to take over. We need a pause. I mean, the Energy Commission Executive Secretary talks about collective responsibility. I agree with him to an extent, but leadership is course. It is.
Everything rises and falls on leadership, we are told.
You cannot say that all of us, yes, you were a father, you were the head of family, the buck stops with you. Somebody must be responsible. And that pause is important because he talks about leaving the legal ones out. You show the footages. That even the so-called legal ones are pillaging the environment. So there has to be a pause and a change of direction. And then we decide as a collective, all of us together, non-partisan, and I must underscore that, where do we go from here? Let's call everybody to the table and say that party A, party B, CSO A, CSO B, the regulatory bodies, civil society, the unions come together, ordinary citizens. What do we do? Because the future or our future is at stake. And this alternative livelihood thing, it will certainly become part of the solutions going forward. But Samson and viewers and listeners, sovereignty resides in the people. And for me, I don't want us to leave here and talk about collective responsibility. True, but it is time for us to take over, to save our future and our environment. That is why the health workers unions and associations have come together to issue this statement, hoping that something very drastic, something quite substantial will happen in the coming days. And we have said that we will review the situation in a very short time. Look, let's take the mantle into our own hands. If we leave it for the actors that we've already described, they will fail us. And it is time we show leadership. Now we're calling on TUC and its affiliates, all the labor unions, be prepared. Because we cannot leave this to the people that have led this fight. It has failed.
Thank you. Dr. York couldn't say it any better than that. Yes, Felix.
Samson, You see, when Professor Anyenini and my brother here, Kofi, say that we should take politics out of this, I don't know exactly what they mean. So merely because I'm a politician, I belong to the NDC. When I see clear wrongdoing on the part of the government of the day, the government that people have voted for, entrusted with power and authority and the resources of this country, I see them fail at what I believe to be a relatively straightforward issue in dealing with illegal mining. Actually,
you accuse the NPP of making the fight difficult.
But absolutely, but is that not what has happened?
Come in and you also go on campaigns and you make it difficult for them to fight it.
There's nothing I can say that can make this fight difficult for the president of Ghana, the government of Ghana, if he wants to deal with it. So I don't understand Dr. Anyenini's concern. You see, and that kind of commentary is what enables the impunity that we are seeing. Because the government of the day, that should be called out, singled out for blame, then takes cover under collectivity. Samson, those of us sitting here, in what way can we stop Galamsey beyond the public commentary you are running? Who has the resources? Why? We have a 15,000 strong army, an almost 40,000 strong police service, and other quasi-security agencies. You are telling me that a state like ours cannot wage a relentless battle against some miscreants destroying our environment and win it? The reason we are not able to do so is that this government is actively participating in the loot. And people like Professor Anyenini and my brother should acknowledge that. We have been in power before. When we were in power, whatever responsibility there was to dealing with this was squarely ours. You can accuse us of not being able to carry through with the fight. It will be a valid criticism. But the moment another party takes over and they form government, it becomes their responsibility, unless you have evidence that even as they are making genuine efforts to address it, we are in any way, shape, or form acting illegally to undermine them. And we are not doing so. Okay. So I don't accept that collective responsibility narrative. It is only amounting to making excuses for the MPP to fail further and not take responsibility for what they have to do.
Right. Alan Chairman Ting is saying that we should just enforce the legislation and then look to a national unity government by him. Otherwise,
I agree with the first one. Definitely we must enforce legislation.
Yes.
Definitely.
Right.
What do you say?
Well, Mr. Chairman Ting, you're part of the problem, so hopefully.
That's why everybody is part of the problem apart from yourself.
So go ahead. You have just a minute.
Okay, so let me just say this. We are an endangered species. We all are. NDC, MPP, we all are an endangered species. And the only way we're going to be able to solve this problem is we get away from this mindset that this is a collective responsibility. It's nonsense when you say collective responsibility. There is no such thing. That's why we have voted for leadership to come in to run our lives for us. Leadership is an absolute phenomenon if you know what you're doing. A leadership of excellence promotes excellence and merit. Leadership of excellence punishes corruption. This leadership obviously doesn't want to punish corruption, just like Mr. Fosu Kwache's government, the NDC, did when they were in power, because obviously they didn't solve the problem, and he doesn't want to accept that. So our responsibility here, the only thing we can do as Ghanaians is to see them out, see MPP out, and not even dare bring NDC in. We need a responsible leadership who cares for Ghana, or we are all going to die from this. And this is where I leave off. We are all an endangered species at this point, and Ghanaians, vote wisely going into December 2024. It's upon us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My outfit, as always, is by Konatic Clothing. You can call them 0244-676732, and you find them at Adenta Shopping Center, Adenta Down. I'm Samson Lardy Anyenini. This has been another installment of your most authoritative news analysis platform, Newsfile. And my guests, you have heard, have been Kofi Koranting, who is the presidential hopeful, New Vision movement. You heard also Professor Dr. Ernest York, Vice President, Ghana Medical Association, the only association so far that has gotten 9 of its members together. 9 of its members together to issue a statement with clear demands. They say, ban it now. If you don't, as he has repeated, they cannot guarantee industrial harmony. And they're asking TUC and the rest to join. Abu Jinapo couldn't join us. This issue, obviously, will be on the headlines next week as well. But I understand Abuja Ajinapo, the minister, is organizing some media engagements in the course of the week to try and see what they can do. I'm Samson, Lardy, Anyenini. Have a good afternoon.